Chapter 7. Home to the Herd. Sam had thought carefully how to phrase his time travel wish. The Coelophysis had hopefully not eaten all the eggs, and he was hoping to find Sunny's family. He prepared himself to yell out to the stone to take them back home if it decided to be very literal and deposit them right in the middle of a group of Sunny's relatives. Sam had tried to prepare Jane for the unpleasant sensations involved in time travel, but she was nevertheless shocked and lay speechless on the forest floor for a minute, too disorientated to speak. Being more accustomed to it, the other two got up and dusted themselves off, taking stock of their surroundings. Sunny stood close to Maylee, sniffing the air in a nervous way. They stared around at the thick, strange vegetation surrounding them. "Do you recognize anything?" Sam asked Maylee, who shook her head. Jane stood up slowly. She looked spooked. "Yarp," Sunny said in an unusually subdued voice. "Look really hard, Maylee, for anything you recognize," Sam said. "Let's try walking in circles from here and see if we can find anything familiar." The children walked around slowly, Sam and Jane each holding one of Maylee's hands, and Sunny walking after them. After about 10 minutes, they spotted a pond, which Sam thought he recognized as the one where he and Pieter had seen the timnospondyle. He could roughly remember what direction Maylee's cry had come from, and eventually, after some false turns, Maylee recognized a huge tree, and she led them just beyond it. The ground was filled with several shallow depressions, scratched by the claws of mothers ready to lay, and a few freckled blue-green eggshell fragments were scattered around. "Yes, this is where I got Sunny's egg," Maylee confirmed. Sam was unsure what to do next. They couldn't just leave Sunny. She would have to hunt and eat things she'd never yet met, and keep away from creatures that might eat her. Were her instincts enough in this strange alien land? They wandered cautiously a bit further from the nesting ground, watching Sunny exploring her surroundings with interest. "She doesn't look scared," Sam noted, "more interested. And there's plenty of water around for drinking," Jane said practically. "We need to try and find some of her kind," Sam said. "She needs to be accepted into her herd, then she'll be safe." "Yeah, right. No safer place than a herd of dinosaurs," Jane joked. She was starting to enjoy the adventure. "But how will we find them? And what if they try to attack us?" "I'm not that keen to go wandering around," Sam said. "Last time we were here, there was some hooting thing. We left when we heard it." Maylee and Sunny had wandered a little way off, and Maylee suddenly said, "Sunny, here's something. Look, she's standing like when she hunts a lizard." "Quick!" Sam cried, not stopping to look at Sunny. He ran to Maylee and dragged her to a big tree, which he'd already identified as a good refuge, saying, "Quickly, climb up," giving her a boost up to the lowest branch as he spoke. He sprang up after her, gave Jane a hand up, and they all began to climb higher. Unlike when he was fleeing the Gorgonopsians, the tree was full of conveniently placed hand and footholds, and all three of them managed to reach a good height. Sunny yelped indignantly, ineffectually clawing at the trunk and glaring up at them. "It's okay, Sunny, I'm here," Maylee called down anxiously. Abruptly, a loud crashing noise sounded some way away, but it swiftly got closer, and the leaves on the trees started vibrating ever so slightly. It happened so quickly that there was no time to think. A monstrous dinosaur burst out of the forest a mere 7 meters away. It was as big as a 2-story house and walked on 2 legs like Sunny. They sat frozen on their branches, and in a matter of seconds it passed by, part earthquake, part hurricane, branches and plants bending, swishing and snapping as it strode away. "What's that?" Jade gasped. No, Sam, not yet. It's gone. It's okay." Sam returned the hands holding the stone to his pocket reluctantly and said hoarsely, "I think it was a theropod dinosaur like Sunny, but a much bigger sort. I remember reading they found some fossil dinosaur footprints in Lesotho from some massive animal, but they've never found fossils big enough to match. Maybe it was an animal similar to that." Sunny slunk out of the fern clump she'd been cowering in and uttered a pathetic "Yarp! Yarp!" Almost instantly, from somewhere to the right, her cries were answered. She swung her head to and fro, looking around in bewilderment. No one had ever yarped back before. The children looked from their vantage point to see where the yarps had come from, and after a time saw movement some distance away, yellowy, browny shapes appearing and then disappearing through the dense vegetation. After a while, Sunny yarped again, and the oncoming creatures replied in a chorus. It was impossible to see how many there were, but it sounded like quite a few. The children noted with a mixture of joy and apprehension that they were heading in their and Sunny's direction. "Is it Sunny's family?" Maylee asked anxiously. "I guess so," Sam replied hopefully. "We wished for that, and they yarped the same." It was a tense wait as the dinosaurs ambled slowly towards them. They seemed to be foraging as they went, frequently darting into vegetation. In fact, very like Sunny when walking with him in the karoo. "Sunny is going to miss her little snacks," Maylee said sadly, her lower lip trembling. "Well, there are lots of other lizard-like things to eat in the Jurassic," Sam said hastily, trying to cheer her before she got too worked up. "The Jurassic is a time when there are tons of different reptiles. Lizards are reptiles, you know. It'll be like only having apples to eat, and then you go to a shop and get nectarines and peaches and figs and bananas and oranges and he ran out of fruit names and added, and lots of other cool fruits you never saw before." Maylee's lip retracted, and she looked thoughtful. She was imagining Sunny going to a reptilian pick-and-mix dispenser with a brown paper bag and filling it with all kinds of brightly coloured lizard treats. In between yarps, Sunny had been circling their tree, clearly feeling very uneasy. Suddenly she froze and looked towards a clump of tree ferns. A head, just like hers, had popped out of the greenery like a puppet from behind a curtain, followed by two others. There was more movement behind them, lots of pushing and shoving, and a group of 6 dinosaurs emerged from the foliage. They looked just like Sunny, but were an inch or two bigger. Sunny stood frozen, huffing loudly through her nostrils as she tried to work out who the intruders were and what she should do. The other young dinosaurs were without fear. After all they saw was a dinosaur just like them. Perhaps the stone was working its magic too, because instead of being hostile, they ran up to her and started jostling and sniffing her in a curious but not unfriendly way. She stood very stiff and still, like a dog does when it's being threatened by another dog and doesn't want to fight. Suddenly, one of the dinosaurs pounced on her in a playful way and began a mock fight. Playing was one thing Sunny had done a lot of with Phoebe, and she reacted in an appropriate way. She abandoned her stiff pose, gave a huge jump in the air, and began running around and around the tree, chased by the friendly dinosaur. The other dinosaurs powered into each other, and soon there was a tangled mass of claws and teeth and leathery, thrashing tails. Hisses and yarps filled the air. The children watched in horrified fascination. It was the most vicious game they'd ever seen. Fortunately, the skin of the young dinosaurs was like armor. "They are being very rough with Sunny, and she's quite small," Maylee said anxiously. Sam reached out and gripped her arm firmly. He wouldn't put it past her to jump down and start defending Sunny. He said, "She is fine. Actually, this has gone really well. She's accepted them, and they've accepted her. I think maybe these are her brothers and sisters." "But she is smaller," objected Jane, her eyes still fixed in fascination on the playing dinosaurs. "That might be a time thing. Maybe they are a bit older, even though we asked to go back to when they're the same age. Or maybe she didn't grow as fast. She's been in a completely different time to this, remember? And she hasn't been eating the same food." They sat in silence, watching the dinosaurs who, eventually tired of playing, lay down in patches of sunlight. Sunny sniffed around for a while, then lay down too, looking perfectly relaxed. The novelty of the scene began to wear off, and the children, who didn't dare move much, started feeling tired and uncomfortable. "We're going to have to wish ourselves home from here," Sam said. "I think we should go now. Sunny is safely settled." "Let's wait a tiny bit longer," Maylee begged, her eyes once more filling with tears. "Okay, a teeny bit longer," Sam said reluctantly. He was ready to go home. Plus, he always felt some anxiety before he used the stone in case it didn't work. He waited for a short while, then, just as he was about to tell Maylee it was time, he heard a faint sound from far away. Whatever or whoever was calling had an electrifying effect on the young dinosaurs. Their heads shot up and turned towards the sound. They got up immediately and started filing out the glade towards whatever it called, yarping in reply. Sunny hesitated, glanced up into the tree, then followed after them, It's okay, Maylee, Sam said hastily, grabbing her arm again as she shifted sharply on the branch. I think that's probably her mother or father or another member of her family. She'll be safe with him now and learn to become a proper, well, whatever kind of dinosaur she is, a Sunnysaurus. Imagine how happy her mother, her other mother, will be to see her. Before Maylee could object, he reached out for her and Jane's hand and shouted, I wish we three were back home on the hill. Through the vortex of light and dark they spun, falling, and then they were safely back, lying on hard ground, burningly hot from the summer sun. Sam raised his head, and for a split second, as he looked out on the dry, flat land intersected by small hills and erosion gullies, he saw too the forest and rivers, the sandy banks and the slow-moving streams that had filled the area millions and millions of years before. He blinked, and the ancient landscape was gone. Quickly he glanced around to locate the girls and check they were all right. Jane was picking herself up and holding her hand out to a tearful Maylee. Oh, Maylee, I've got a present for you. I forgot with all the stuff that's been going on. Come, let's go to the farm and get it. Sam gave her a grateful glance. He didn't feel like he could deal with Maylee's tears right then. Leaving Sunny had been hard enough. And while you do that, I'm going to go see Pieter. Tell him that we and Sunny are all right, he said. He's probably worrying himself sick about it. Sicker. He got up, and the children made their way down the hill without speaking. The girls headed off towards the farmhouse, and Sam walked towards Pieter's cottage. Life suddenly seemed very empty, knowing that the demanding but endearing dinosaur was no longer in their world. She'd left a gap which nothing could fill, Sam thought sadly. What else would ruthlessly hunt every lizard it saw, yelp loud enough to hurt your ears, and love having its head rubbed? The next morning saw the children sitting together around the chicken coop, with Phoebe at their feet. She still had a few days of antibiotics left, but was more or less her old self, to Sam's relief. He'd been worried that modern medicine wouldn't treat an infection caused by an extinct animal. The reason for them sitting by the coop was that one of Chickie's ladies had just hatched a brood of chicks. The three farm children were used to the cuteness of newly hatched chicks, but Jane, the city dweller, was not, and she could not get enough of them. They're so adorable, like fluffy pom-poms on legs, she exclaimed delightedly. Oh, look, that one's scared of the red beetle. The boys didn't mind sitting and watching. Seeing as chickens were the closest living relatives of Tyrannosaurus rex, they were interested in observing Chickie and his flock. Tyrannosaurus rex means king of the tyrant lizards, Pieter said knowledgeably. Tyranno means tyrant in Greek, saurus means lizard in Greek, and rex means king in Latin. What does dinosaur mean? Jane asked with a frown. The idea that the scientific names of plants and animals actually meant something in Latin or Greek was new to her. It means terrible lizard in Greek, Pieter said, adding pedantically, though dinosaurs are not actually lizards, but something different. But they were given that name ages ago, before they were proper paleontologists. Sam chuckled. Well, I bet all the lizards around here thought Sunny was terrible. He regretted his comment immediately, however, as a sad silence fell as everyone thought of Sunny and wondered how she was doing, or rather did, back in her own time. Maylee's eyes filled with tears and her lip protruded. The three older children exchanged a glance, and Jane said quickly, I know, let's do a doll makeover, Maylee. Come, let's go fetch my hair clips and brush from the house. We can sit on the porch. Maylee was thrilled. No one ever wanted to play dolls with her, and she worshipped Jane, who was so much older. The girls went off, and the boys looked at each other. What should they do now? Pieter was still feeling tired and washed out, and altogether life seemed terribly flat and uninteresting. Maybe we can start planning our next adventure, Sam said to Pieter, trying to cheer things up. Yeah, but not yet, when I'm better. In fact, I think I'm going to go home and lie down for a bit, okay? Okay, Sam said nicely, although he was disappointed. He didn't feel like being alone somehow. Pieter went off, and Sam trailed up to the porch where the makeover session was ongoing. Jane was teaching Maylee how to plait hair. Here, let's do it at the same time, and you copy me, she was saying. So, make 3 strands of hair. Oh, hi, Sam. Will you just hold Maylee's doll for her while she does the plaiting? Her hands are too small to hold and plait. Dispirited, Sam held the doll by the shoulders, while Maylee tried to follow Jane's actions. At that moment, Sam's father came striding up the path. He stopped and surveyed the little group and said, "What's going on here?" "A doll makeover," Jane said cheerfully. "As soon as you've finished helping out with that, Sam, and Dolly is looking her best, living her best life, can you please come to the orchard? I need your help," his father said coldly. "Yes, yes," Sam said eagerly, adding, "I'm only holding it for Maylee." But his father was gone, wondering anxiously if his son was going to tell him he wanted to be a beauty consultant rather than a farmer when he grew up. In the late afternoon, when Sam had finished helping his father, he and Jane met up again at the house. Jane was glad to see him, as she and Maylee had finished their makeover, and Maylee had gone home a while ago. Sam beckoned to her with a rather mysterious air to come with him to the kitchen where they would be alone, and he could make himself a big beer mug of powdered orange juice. Jane followed him into the kitchen and looked at him expectantly. She was having the most incredible holiday ever. "You know, while I was working, I was thinking about the farm, and then I got to thinking about my great-grandfather and how he disappeared. And then I suddenly realized that he may not have disappeared as such. Perhaps he travelled through time too. The last time he was seen was on the hill, and I found the stone on the disappearing hill." Jane was silent for a moment, digesting this, and then she looked at him with admiration and exclaimed, "You could be right. Oh my goodness, you could be right. So you mean he maybe travelled through time and never came back?" "Yes, I was thinking that perhaps he got trapped in the past. Or if he had another similar stone, perhaps he didn't know how to use it. Maybe we could go back in time and find him. That is, if the stone let us go back to the same time and place he went. If he went," he added confusedly, "maybe we could bring him back with us, like we did with Sunny." "Yes, if the stone was involved in his disappearance," Jane said thoughtfully. "Well, if that is what happened, I wonder what time he went to. I wonder if it happened totally unexpectedly, like when I said, I wish we could see what the fossil looked like." "Let's ask the stone and see," Jane said eagerly. Having had a taste of time travel, she was dying for more. "We have to wait for Pieter, though," Sam said. "It wouldn't be fair to leave him out." "No," Jane agreed reluctantly. She did not have long to wait, however, as Pieter declared himself fit enough the very next day. The older children felt it would be better to leave Maylee safe at home, but could not refuse her insistence that she come after she'd played such an important part in the Sunny experience. They made her swear, on her life, to do whatever they told her to, immediately. Straight after breakfast, Sam shut a fed-up Phoebe in his room. She knew very well she was being left out of an outing, and, giving him a dirty look, jumped onto his bed and lay down. She knew that barking and carrying on would not help, but she could make him feel bad. Shortly afterwards, the 4 children toiled up the steep slopes of the disappearing hill. They didn't know what part it actually played in the magic, but it seemed safest to stick to what had worked so well before. They'd had a bit of hassle getting away, as their mothers had tried to persuade them to drive with them to the nearest town for a shop and lunch, a treat for the farm dwellers, but the children said they would rather go fossil hunting. Sam was carrying the scrapbook in which he and Pieter had been keeping all the information on fossils and paleontology, and flourished it as he spoke, showing it as proof of their fossil hunting intent. Sam's mother took it and flicked through it. She was most impressed. "This is excellent," she said. "There are things here I never knew about the Karoo in the past, and your drawings of this baby dinosaur are really excellent." She was looking at some sketches of Sunny that Pieter had made. So lifelike. The boys smiled vaguely and slid quietly out of the room. They had places to go, things to do, time to travel. Please join us next week for Chapter 10, The Lost Little Girl.